Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My ex-husband and I divorced when my son was 10. My ex had found someone new. We went for 50-50 custody, but he still had to pay some child support. I went back to school at that time. On the weekends when his dad had him, I buckled down and did nothing but schoolwork. When he was with me, I made sure I had time for him before and after school. I did expect him to help around the house, but nothing excessive. Mostly just cleaning up after himself and helping with cooking and laundry. His dad's house was more fun. I tried to make my home welcoming. I bought a used PS4 and got fiber optic internet. It wasn't enough for him. When he was 14, he and his father got the court to award my ex primary custody. I did fight it, but my son made it clear he would run away if I didn't give in. Counseling didn't help. I tried everything. It was devastating having my son decide I wasn't someone he wanted to spend time with. He started skipping visitation. When he did come, he would leave the house and not come home until it was time to sleep. During this time, I started a relationship with my current husband. He helped me through this. He wasn't on my radar romantically. Nobody was. So he got close by being an amazing friend. I asked him out, and we got married 6 months later. We had known each other since I went back to university. 6 months after we got married, I got pregnant. By strange coincidence, so did the woman my ex was cheating with. Not the woman he left me for, a newer model. I had sold my house, and my husband and I bought a condo together. Just a 2-bedroom apartment with a tiny den. We made the den into a nursery and consolidated our offices into the second bedroom. My ex moved in with his new girlfriend, and she isn't a fan of my son. His stepmother doesn't want him there if his father isn't there. So my son is also in the new house with his dad's pregnant girlfriend, and her mom. My son is 16 now, and he called me to see if he could stay with me. I said I didn't really have any room. He asked me what I did with his room. He didn't even know I sold the house. He's very upset. He called me a bee for not having a place for him to stay. I said he could stay in our living room on the couch. Not acceptable. I talked to my husband, and we have enough money from the sale of my house and his old bachelor pad, as well as our condo, to buy back into the market. We were waiting for interest rates to fall, and we were going to move to a more reasonably priced city. I told my son if he could take the living room for now, we could have a room for him in 6 months. He moved in with his grandparents. He isn't happy there. At least his dad got him a car so he can drive to his same school. My son is pissed that I prioritize my new baby and my work over him. I had no expectation to ever need to house him again. My ex called me and told me to make our office into a room for our son. I told him that our son's circumstances were his fault, not mine. Well, it's a tough one, but I'm more leaning to say that OP is not in the wrong here, unless OP isn't telling the whole story. I think she made an effort to have her son in her life, even taking him to counseling, etc. And what did she get in return? Him name-calling her? From what I gather, in 2 years he hasn't really done anything to rebuild his relationship with OP. And I know he's reaching out now to reconnect with OP, but just because he has nowhere to go and needs a place to stay. He didn't come around. He didn't want a relationship with you until his father screwed up again. He participated in having custody awarded to his father because that's what he wanted. He knew what the consequences were when he stopped coming around. OP made a decision based on her current circumstances. He wants to change them because he now realizes his father is the conditional parent and not the steadfast one. OP is even offering to have space for him and buy a whole new house, just not in the time frame he wants. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. AJ Alva says, "Everyone sucks here. Your son made his decision and he got what he wanted. It's not cool that he is now facing the consequences of his father's infidelity, again. But this decision is legally bound. It is your ex's responsibility to care for your son, by his own doing. With that being said, as a mother, I think you're letting an opportunity to rekindle the relationship pass. He is 16, and it was probably really hard to reach out to you and ask for help. There has to be a more creative solution that can get you both under the same roof, while also giving everyone their space during such a transitional stage." AKZ Sinzao says, "Honestly, not the a-hole. People are upset saying you should have held a place for him, but you'd previously been doing just that to have the son not want to have anything to do with you. It's a lose-lose for you here, unfortunately. If you'd kept pushing the issue, despite the son saying and showing he wanted nothing to do with you, they'd have called you a boundary-stomping a-hole. It's perfectly fine for you to have found a new love. It's perfectly fine for you to have another child, or however many more you wish to have. That doesn't make this a do-over child like someone else stated, and you aren't replacing your son. It was fine for you two to downsize to accommodate the lives you currently had. Your son didn't want to be with you until he realized he wasn't a priority with his dad anymore. Yes, he is a child, but he and his father both made the choices they made, and that just isn't working out for him now, is it? Disconnected says, "There's a lot to unpack here. I work at a law office as a paralegal. Divorces are messy, especially for kids who are often being manipulated by one parent and pitted against the other. He was 14 when he wanted to change custody agreement and stay with his dad. Still very much a child, and in a very vulnerable moment in his life. He's 16 now, and he realized neither of his parents want him. He's still very much a kid, a teenage kid, but still just a kid. The way you wrote, 'I had no expectation to ever need to house him again,' makes me think you never really wanted the custody, just wanted to stick it to your ex. I wonder if he felt the same when he wanted full custody. You have a chance to have a relationship with your son. Take it or leave it, it's up to you. Visit him, talk to him, introduce your husband to him. He needs to realize the new family dynamic should he move in with you. Everyone sucks here, to be honest." My younger sister has always had issues with entitlement, taking advantage of others, throwing fits, being verbally aggressive, and being a miser. Not trying to dispense armchair diagnosis, but she really does check every box of NPD. A few years ago, she announced her engagement to a nice guy who was a pushover. He expressed not wanting to get married for a while, but she proposed to him, not that there's anything wrong with that, and kept pressuring him to get married. He comes from a wealthier family than us and is good with money and investments. Perfect combo for her to take advantage of and have someone bankroll her delusions. He wanted a modest local wedding so friends and family could attend. My sister decided she wanted a destination wedding outside the country. At the time, my husband and I didn't have the best paying jobs. He was working on a second degree, and we had imminent goals of buying our first home together. We regretfully declined her invitation because the trip would cost us $3,000 to $4,000, which we did not have. It would have to go on a credit card. When we RSVP'd no, she said she and her now husband wanted to pay for everything so we could attend. My husband and I were floored because 1, that is a lot of money, and 2, my sister's never been one to offer to pay for anything. We accepted her offer with a lot of gratitude. A couple months go by, and she asks if my husband and I have booked our airplane tickets and hotels yet, and said, "They just keep getting more expensive the closer they get to the date, you know." What? I have never expected anyone to just give me anything, but my financial situation hasn't changed. We tell her as much, and she says, "Well, husband and I looked at all the prices a while ago, and it is too much money, so you guys will have to take care of it yourselves." We ignored her and went on with our goals. Months go by, and husband and I get better jobs and buy our house. Sister comes back and asks again if we purchased our tickets, despite repeatedly telling her no. We tell her again, no, and at this point, with our new jobs, we aren't allowed to take time off yet and don't have enough PTO anyway. When I started my job, they offered to honor upcoming events if I needed time off, but I had said I didn't need anything since I already planned on not going to the wedding. We didn't have savings and took on a mortgage, so we can't tack on credit card debt too. I was so annoyed with her constant "just figure it out" tantrums and "if you really loved me" speeches. I tried to frame it differently so maybe she could understand. I told her that attending her wedding would mean that we would have to no-show at work, likely lose our jobs, not be able to pay our mortgage, and then lose our house. I said to her, "So you were okay with my husband and I losing our jobs and house and risking homelessness so we could attend your wedding?" Of course, she didn't have a good answer for that. She has no concept of money because she has always manipulated people into paying for her. She has never been able to hold a job. She has no empathy for others, yet thinks she is deserving of special treatment. I don't understand where it came from because our parents raised us to be hardworking and to not expect stuff from anyone. Our parents and my husband and I couldn't afford to attend. Her husband's family could and wanted to go, but she wouldn't allow it because it would be weird to only have his family there and not mine. She put up a huge paywall and then blamed us for having to elope and went no contact with us. It has honestly been a huge relief after a lifetime of her aggression. Edited to add, when we accepted her offer to pay for our trip, she had said to not worry about anything at all. She said she would book our flight and hotel and everything, and to just sit back and relax because she just really wanted us to be present at her wedding. She just gave us dates to put in time off requests at our old jobs. So this is why we didn't buy anything with the intention of her reimbursement, and were surprised when she asked us if we had done that stuff yet. Should have known better, since all of that is very unlike her. Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she was given the money from her fiancé to get OP's tickets, but she spent it. She probably spun the story that OP just took the money and ran, and that's her reason to give him for going no contact with her family. Also, I really don't understand people who choose to have destination weddings and then complain when some guests can't attend. Surely it's obvious that if people have to pay for flights and hotels and food and everything, at least some of your guests won't be able to come. That's the deal. And now let's see what the community has to say. Biddy Jam says, "Lord have mercy. She sounds exhausting. I hope her armpits are itchy and her bra straps are always just a tad too loose." Sergi Carr says, "All destination weddings are giant paywalls, but I don't understand why you keep playing her game. She told you she was going to pay because you couldn't. She changed her mind. Nothing changed on your end. That's all you needed to say. If you really want us there, you will have to add it to the wedding budget, but we totally understand if you can't. If it's any comfort, I bet her in-laws hate her." Ace Blazewing says, "Your sister does sound like a real piece of work, and I pity her poor husband having to deal with her crazy. At least you're no contact with her now and don't have to deal with her. But I too am baffled at how someone can turn out so selfish and lacking in empathy when their parents raised them to not be so. She has to have gotten that attitude from somewhere." My husband and I have been married for 2 years, together for 4. My husband and his ex-wife Laura have been separated for 7. They have a 5-year-old daughter, Sarah, together. Their custody is pretty cordial. Laura has their daughter from Sunday through Tuesday, and we have her Thursday through to Saturday. Wednesdays, Laura drops her off at school, and we pick her up. Holidays are supposed to switch, but we always do them together for Sarah. I see her, Laura, a lot, and she's okay to me. Again, if for nothing but Sarah. She's a great mom from what I can tell. Anyway, so Sarah has been begging to go to Disney for a long time now, and my husband finally said we'd take her. Laura was okay with that. So this past weekend we went. Sarah is obsessed with the Disney princesses. Obviously, she's 5, and especially Cinderella and Elsa. And I think it's because she's blonde. Disney has this princess boutique thing, where basically they will dress your child up as any princess they want and do their hair, nails, and all that for them. Sarah was so excited and said she was going to pick Elsa. She wanted me to wear something blue as well so that we could match, as I'm also blonde and watch the movies with her a lot. So at Disney, I wore a light blue workout dress and a white ribbon in my hair. When they dressed Sarah up as Elsa, my husband took a few pics of us and her. When Laura asked for a pic, my husband sent her one of Sarah in the chair getting her hair done, one of her posing with Elsa, and one of me holding her. When Laura received this pic, she called me while we were still at Disney. I thought maybe it was something important, so I answered. Laura went off. She cussed me out, saying I was pretending to be Sarah's mother. I needed to leave. I needed to stop being such a B, W, S. All of these harsh words. I ended up just hanging up on her and told my husband to handle it. He ignored it until we got back to the hotel that night and called her. Laura told him that us wearing the same thing was so disrespectful and that I looked like her mom and people were going to get confused and assume I was. She said I was disrespecting her by doing this. I suspect she called me a few things my husband didn't repeat. When we got home, Laura showed up unannounced. She tried to take Sarah back on a day that wasn't hers, and when Sarah wasn't even ready. My husband and her started to argue, which made Sarah cry. They don't argue in front of her, and I ended up just taking Sarah out of the room. Well, that was a huge mistake. Laura went off and said I'm trying to kidnap her child, and called me a ducking B and a disgusting W in front of her own daughter. My husband ended up kicking her out and threatening to call the police if she didn't leave. Laura then threatened to call them too, saying she'd tell them we didn't have permission to take Sarah on her days. So all of that is to say, what the duck? It's Sunday now, so Sarah went to her mom's this morning. Laura apologized to my husband, but hasn't spoken to me at all. What about this Disney thing made her react like that? What did I do? I would never try to replace Laura as Sarah's mom, That's not my place at all. I don't understand what happened. If you have any thoughts on what I should do, please share. Singing Along 6 says, my guess, they were still sleeping together in the midst of a separation, which implies perhaps on her end, Laura thought things would not end, especially if she got pregnant during that time, but it did. Then you came along and took the wife role, and now in her eyes, trying to take the mother role from her as well. It sounds like unresolved issues of hers that she has taken out on you, and perhaps feelings of resentment she has until now kept quietly at bay, and this was the trigger. Question: were you around prior to them divorcing, just because of the names Laura chose to call you? Has your husband said anything in regard to sorting this out at all? Arc Sign 1 says, your husband left her and married a much younger woman. That much younger woman is now taking mother, stepdaughter pictures. Seeing her little beautiful daughter so happy with you was a shock. It was just too much. When or if you give birth to a child, you might empathize. If you give birth to a child and your husband replaces you with someone younger, you will empathize. No excuses, though, for traumatizing the 5-year-old daughter. Plaid 8241 says, she is jealous, plain and simple. You have her ex and are married to him. As a family, you went to Disney and took pictures. You look happy, and sounds like she is not. She is a train wreck. Just ignore her pettiness. You didn't do anything wrong, and you recognize you are not trying to replace the child's mom.